What's going on, everybody? It's Buzz, and I'm back with a really quick follow-up build guide to my budget techno build I posted a few days ago. Now, unlike that build, which featured 0 tier 3 mods, today's build is the ultimate toxic techno, and it makes extensive use of tier 3 mods and goes full commitment into just sheer damage output. But before we dive into today's video, in case you haven't yet smashed that sub button for intensive Outriders content, please do so. And don't forget to ring the bell to never miss a future upload notification from my channel. Alright, much the same as last time, I want to quickly run through the skill tree, and depending on how comfortable you are with the mobs and spawns on CT15 Gold clears, you can make slight changes to this build based on your personal needs. Now, the first way to spec into the Pestilence tree is now showing on your screens, so if you want to screenshot it, here's your chance. This is really a pretty basic build setup that uses impact amplifier 3 times for that extra weapon damage, nitrogen capsules for us to reduce the distance considered long range so we can keep those extra long range damage bonuses even when fast moving enemies come inside the perimeter between what's considered short and long range. We're also going to be using Exposing Toxic, which is an insane bonus that applies vulnerable to targets every time you apply Toxic, which you will be doing all the time with your turret and your blighted rounds. And then we're going to be taking Marked for Execution that takes the vulnerable affliction and it cranks it up even further. I built this Toxic Techno around an assault rifle, so anytime you can grab extra AR damage, that is a no-brainer. So obviously you want to grab Assault Master, and then you want to grab Empowering Antenna to finish off the Pestilence skill tree and net another 40% bonus damage every time we activate a decay skill, like our Blighted Rounds or the Blighted Turret. Now, it's really important to remember to constantly be redeploying your turret all over the place for that extra damage bonus, because if you're just throwing it out there once and forgetting it, you are costing yourself a ton of extra damage output. Now, like I said, this is the basic setup in case you need a little extra crowd control in your build, because this is the skill tree setup you would pair with the Cold Snap skill. Now, once you finally got the build set up the way I'm going to be showing you, you can then graduate over to this advanced setup, and the only change we have made is that we have taken away the suction module point early on in the skill tree and replaced it with the major node of Cannonade. Now, with this major node unlocked, and if we release an ordnance skill, we gain another plus 30% weapon damage for 10 seconds. Paired with this change will be a change to our skills, as we will need to swap out the Cold Snap for an ordnance skill, like Scrapnel, Pain Launcher, or Tool of Destruction. We really aren't going to net too much damage for whatever option we choose here, but ideally, we need the ordnance skill with the fastest cooldown so we can proc that extra plus 30% weapon damage, making Scrapnel the choice to go with. Really though, this extra setup is up to you. The weapon is the same as I was using in that last techno budget build, but we have now added the Killing Spree tier 3 mod, and it really makes this burst AR super deadly. Burst fire weaponry in general is broken right now, but when you add Bone Shrapnel for all that AoE, and then on top of that, Killing Spree that adds plus 25% weapon damage for 20 seconds and can stack up to 3 times, this little AR becomes a mini nuke launcher. Jumping over to the gear, and it has stayed roughly the same from the last video, but I have made the necessary changes to add those really desirable tier 3 mods onto the build. The headgear has been maxed out on bonus firepower, short and long range damage, and I've paired it with Captain Hunter and Toxic Lead. Captain Hunter is essential for stacking that extra plus 25% damage when you are taking on elites, and Toxic Lead is how I keep the primary weapon up on perpetual toxic rounds. Now, the upper armor is where you could make a change, but like every other piece on this build, I have bonus firepower, close and long range damage paired up with Kingslayer and Emergency Stance. Now, the option here is Kingslayer, which I personally like for when I am bursting down a boss, but if you wanted, you could substitute in Critical Analysis, which is a tier 1 techno class mod for that extra plus 15% critical damage. Emergency Stance is my go-to for survivability, and like I said in that last techno budget build guide, it seems to be broken right now, and once it procs, the deflecting mechanics seem to stay active even after the rock protection has disappeared. The lower body armor has been changed slightly from last time to include Euthanizer and Crit Stack. Crit Stack I used on the last build because it stacks bonus firepower up for landing critical strikes, but Euthanizer is new because it takes our already high damage versus targets afflicted with Toxic, and it adds another plus 25% damage on top of whatever that figure is. Same build basics on the gloves, bonus firepower, close and long range damage, paired up with Sharp Eye and Radical Therapy. Now Sharp Eye again gives us huge firepower bonuses for netting kills while aiming down the sights, and Radical Therapy adds even more damage versus targets afflicted with Toxic. And finally, here are the boots with Bloodlust and Dum Dum bullets. Bloodlust gives us even more bonus firepower for landing those ever important killing shots, and Dum Dum bullets isn't the best bonus, but you know what? 10% is 10%. Here's a full setup for you in case you want to take this screenshot showing the weapon and all 5 gear pieces along with the attributes and most importantly, the mods you want to equip on your build. Skills on this build of course include the blighted rounds and blighted turret, and then you can either run the standard setup with Cold Snap for some crowd control, or you can run the heavier hitting setup with an ordnance skill, of which I would recommend Scrapnel because it has the shortest cooldown and takes very little time to deploy. Now that you've seen this entire build, let's briefly discuss the basics of playing this setup. Obviously what you want to be doing is annihilating anything moving before it can get in too close and start doing damage against you. Remember that you have very little survivability. We're really squishy because we're only using emergency stance to bail us out if we mess up, so we need to use our overwhelming firepower this build can produce to down targets at range. I would also like to point out that this build takes a few kills before it really starts popping, because it needs time for the bonuses to proc and start to stack. Now once you have a quick 2, 3, or even 4 kills under your belt, the bonuses will be fully maxed, and that is when you will start to see those 1 million plus critical hits versus the bosses. Remember to alternate deploying your turret and ordnance skill to keep those bonus weapon damage bonuses at max, and then it just comes down to landing your shots and killing them before they kill you. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up right here, and if you have any questions at all for me concerning this build, how I farm for it, really anything at all, please leave your feedback in the comment section below and I will do my best to answer those questions. Don't forget to smash that sub button for more intensive Outriders content and ring the bell to never miss a future upload notification from my channel. If you could take the time to rate and or share this video, it would be greatly appreciated. Don't forget to find me over on Twitch, join my community Discord server, and of course, follow me on Twitter for all my latest thoughts on most things gaming related. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.